Oh, there you go. I have the screen loaded up. That's the live count of Project Veritas Twitter followers. We can sit here and watch it go down. They've officially cut ties with James O'Keefe. Have you guys seen the video already? Because we're going to watch some of the video, and it kind of depends on you how much of it you want to see. It's about a 45-minute video, but we could watch it on 1.5 speed, and you can hear what James O'Keefe said, and then we can just speculate about why he got kicked out of Project Veritas. But this is live now. It's entertaining to watch. People unfollowing Project Veritas, which I haven't done yet. And I still think they can make good content. I still think they can, just using the same techniques. But what are we going to try to answer on this show? Hey, welcome everybody. Happy President's Day. We're lucky they don't call it Racist President's Day or something. We don't normally, now they don't celebrate American history the same way as we used to. We talk about it differently, but some of our presidents were pretty good. Even if some of them had slaves, they say. Some of them still had qualities that were admirable. So happy President's Day. If you work for the government, God bless you. You get all the days off. So anyway, the James O'Keefe news, what we'll try to answer today is why. That's what we really want to know. Why did they let him go? So he released this video, and actually the release of this video is one thing we have to speculate about because it's an internal video. And then somehow the link was propagated out into the place. I saw it on Zero Hedge. Then I watched what looked like an internal Vimeo video, which then was downloaded by astute people and then re-uploaded. So I'm going to play you from the re-upload to YouTube on Charlie Kirk's channel. Yeah, we'll definitely speculate about what happened to James O'Keefe. Yeah, whether it was because of the Pfizer thing, whether it wasn't because of the Pfizer thing. And maybe I'll do some polls. I'll try to make this an interactive show where we have polls. And I can ask you guys what you think. Did he get fired because of the Pfizer thing? That's kind of what he says. But then he says some other stuff. It makes it sound like maybe that wasn't it. Did he get fired? Is he a jerk? Like, is that the reason? We have to at least consider. They definitely wanted to get rid of him. It was a coup. So there were people that didn't like him that pushed him out. And he describes the process by which it happened. It did happen in close proximity to their biggest story ever, which, well, it's debate. The Pfizer story, we don't know how real the story is or whether it's true, but the Pfizer story was a big story. 50 million views or something, mostly on Twitter for that video, like 50 million. It's crazy, right? Their biggest video ever, their biggest story ever. And then a few days later, they start saying they have problems with James O'Keefe. So maybe it makes sense that James O'Keefe thinks the two things are related, that one has something to do with the other. So I'll play you guys some of what he said and we can analyze it. Will you, I'll ask some polls. I'll ask some polls. Then I have, assuming I have time for everything, then there's also something Matt Walsh said that is controversial about a trans individual, that is controversial in a way that's different than normal things are controversial. Like apparently some conservatives are upset with what Matt Walsh said about a trans person, an annoying trans person. Yeah, and I'm not saying all trans people are annoying. I'm saying this one is to some people, to a lot of people. But Matt Walsh may have crossed the line. I'll do a poll and ask your opinion about whether you think he crossed the line. And then I have some other news. Yeah, it's going to be a really entertaining show. You're glad you're here. So I'll do all that and more after this intro. Okay, cue musical intro. Boy, that's brilliant. I do think some things in the world are real. Like you guys. You guys are real. Most of you. Most of my listeners, I think, are not just in my head. I think I have the metrics to prove it. You've taken a leap of faith today. What is that sound? And I apologize if you take offense. I'm a little offended myself. Welcome to our show. Welcome to the future. What it is, joining you live from sunny California. It's a beautiful day today. I'm your host, Nathan Stoltman. And I bring you the news, the real news. And I'll tell you about a new documentary that's out. And maybe I'll publish a link to it in my Substack. So if you want to support the show, which is demonetized every time, you can guarantee it. It's important. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil, and you can become a member. If you click on the membership tab, you can become a member for $7 or your choice per month. And that's what live streamers really, really work for, or all of us in this industry. We work for subscriptions, but we like coffees too. So if you go to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil, you can become a member, leave a note, or you can drop a coffee or more and leave a note. And somebody did just get banned though. Mersh apparently just got banned from buymeacoffee.com. So I'm hoping that it still stays relevant. Oh, the reason I brought it up is I have Substack also, which I can't think of anybody that Substack has ever banned. So they also have $7 a month memberships. And if you follow me on Substack at lifttheveil.substack.com, you will get an email every time the show comes out with a podcast version of the show and a link to the YouTube video. And I'll include a link to this other transgender video. The video itself is not transgender. This video called Affirmation, I don't want to get it wrong, Affirmation Generation. Really good video that's only out on Vimeo now because I guess they're looking for a distributor, because I asked them if I could upload it to my YouTube channel, but they're intentionally are not uploading it to a mainstream platform because they're looking for somebody to buy the movie. But in the meantime, it's free and it's really good. And it makes you think that maybe that's like the most important issue, and we shouldn't even talk about other issues, is trans kids. But I'll leave a link to that if you follow my blog at lifttheveil.substack.com. lifttheveil.substack.com. I asked the AI about me. I asked the AI about my dad to see if the AI knew who he was, because I thought he was sort of famous, but not apparently enough for the AI. But I asked it about me, and the AI does have an idea And then I think about what this means about reality. And I'm on the list for the new Bing AI. But I asked it, do you know who Nathan Stoltman is? And it says, yes, Nathan Stoltman is an independent journalist and the host of the Lift the Veil podcast on YouTube. He covers a variety of topics, including politics, conspiracy theories, and current events. His podcast has gained a following among those who are interested in alternative news and perspectives. So that's what it says about me, though, even though I don't even advertise myself as a podcaster, like on my LinkedIn profile. Like if I try to get a job, I don't tell them anything about doing this. But now if you search for me, that's what it says. And this is the one that can't even search the internet. The one that can search the internet, the Bing chat. Anyway, it makes me think, oh my God, I'm stuck here. Or like, this is how I'm defined now. What if I just did something else? Like I was a cryptocurrency consultant. I think that's what my LinkedIn profile says. But apparently I'm genuinely a podcaster. So you're here for an actual podcast. I am certified by ChatGPT. All right. You guys want to listen to the James O'Keefe thing? I'm going to play it at 1.5 speed. And I don't know how much of it to play. I'll start here. I'll start here. See how it goes. But this is James O'Keefe making a presentation in front of his staff today. Don't giggle. Because I said staff. I mean, no, I know you were thinking that. So, okay. Here he is. He's got his notes. And then he said this is internal. And this was like just him talking to his staff. But the video leaked. The video here on YouTube only has 10,000 views. So not everybody's seen it. But people are genuinely very interested in what's going on with Mr. O'Keefe. I think people interested enough to repost this video, which is not an official Project Veritas video. In fact, the people at Project Veritas may be extremely upset that this was released to the public. And this could be a strategy by James O'Keefe to get this out, his side of the story. If it was a very clever way to get out his side of the story and make it seem like it was a leak. But they recorded it for everybody. He gave the presentation. I'll start playing some.
They had everything, but they evidently didn't have anything on me. Getting my home raided by the FBI, having my loved ones put in handcuffs in the hallway, and having our office destroyed by a hurricane, literally a hurricane, which forced us into a temporary workplace before rebuilding and stirred up disgruntled employees, including grievances about me, which I will get to in a minute. The list goes on. Even so, as a former board member told me 10 years ago, Project Veritas will never be stopped from the outside. It will only be because we stopped ourselves, right? I'll get to that too in a minute. Prophetic as it may be, that is exactly where we find ourselves in the situation today. A situation where I've been stripped of my authority as CEO and removed from the board of directors. I bet you didn't know that. I'll get to that in a minute. Contrary to what public statements may say. And by the way, I have copies for this. I will not give them to you yet. I will give them to you after I'm done. And there are board minute meetings, which you'll all get a copy of, that read as follows. Quote, James O'Keefe indefinitely suspended as CEO without compensation, February 10th. Yes. Quote, indefinite suspension of James O'Keefe from the board, dated February 10th, 5 days before the statement, saying that I'm still the CEO. I don't know why this is happening.
Anyway, one of the stories is that they released a statement saying he was still the CEO and how much they admired James O'Keefe and stuff. After I think a bunch of donors said they were going to pull their funding, they put out a statement saying, oh no, James O'Keefe is still here, but apparently he'd already been let go. That's what he's saying. Is the speed okay? Oh, sorry. The audio was doubled. It should be better now. And then let me know if the speed is okay.
or specifically why this is happening suddenly right now. As you know, at the helm of Veritas, I've never allowed or entertained speculation. I only report the facts. I think you know this. You're involved in hiring. But don't you know that so many people want to go beyond the facts? I'm adamant that I'm only going to stick to the facts. So much so that sometimes we don't hire people if they want to pontificate and opine about what's going on in society. And I've had people leave because they don't agree with this vision, okay? What a journalist ought to do. But fortunately, I have recordings and documents to back up everything I'm about to tell you. So everything I'm about to tell you, I have documentation and proof. So you don't have to say I wasn't there. You can listen to it and watch it for yourself. So I'm about a quarter of the way through here. Bear with me. For the last 13 years, I've been the same person I've always been, probably better than I used to be. These are adjectives some people used. Tough, hard charging, driven, creative, exacting. I have extremely high standards and somewhat disorganized. I don't ask you how your Thanksgiving was, okay? Or the names of your siblings, although a good leader probably should. I don't do that. I ask a lot of you, but I don't ever ask you to do anything I haven't myself done and continue to do.
Okay. This gets down to his personality. So anyway, he's going to blame Pfizer, kind of, which is sort of, well, which is like everybody's a conspiracy theorist now, right? So most people are saying, or I don't know, a dominant narrative is that it's because of Pfizer. Okay. And he goes with that loosely. So we want to find out, okay, was it? Because they don't say it was because of Pfizer. They say it's because he was a jerk. It seems crazy from a business perspective, considering what they say he did. That was so bad. And we'll get to it. He was a tough boss, but a lot of people are, So, like, as far as I can tell, Project Veritas, as far as I can tell from James's side of the story, Project Veritas seems to have made a mistake, made an error in judgment. But that's just from knowing James's side of the story. Their side of the story might be that he really was impossible to work with. But it sounds like somebody didn't like him, had an argument with him over fundraising, got fired, and then that person ended up coming back and like getting rid of James O'Keefe. But is he tough? Some guys, some people who are high achievers can be difficult to work with. Like Steve Jobs was really difficult to work with for people, but he still created, some amazing things, and people put up with his personality, which sometimes he was like really a jerk. And people put up with Kanye West and his personality because he would create things, people thought it was worthwhile. Like what was created out of the drama was worth the drama. So people would work for Ye, they would work for Project Veritas, work for James O'Keefe. I don't know. He says he apologized for his behavior at one point. Yeah, people didn't get the apology. So he must have, maybe he can be a jerk. But
I haven't always been the most compassionate leader. And that is admittedly a fault of mine, something I need to work on. But I remember when I was back in the carriage house in the beginning, there was a journalist in the beginning, and he pointed this out to me. So you need to be more compassionate, ask me about my life. And it hurt him that I wasn't more compassionate towards him. Personally, I told him it was difficult for me to change myself. But this experience stayed with me, and I always have known this about myself. I've tried to do a better job of that, but the truth is I've been very hurried, very busy, pressed for time every day, trying to pack in so much in a day. I think you all know this in meetings. I'm busy because I'm trying to get so much done in an hour, all the while moving at the speed of light to raise as much money to hire more people to take care of you guys in a fundamental way, although I may not be good at communicating the reasons why I am that way. I'm doing as much as I humanly possibly can so I could build this place out and do more. And that's what we did every year, each year since 2010. Growing every year, sometimes doubling our revenue, doubling our impact. I have a chart.
So there's a chart that shows how much revenue the company's made every year through 2020. And it's gone up a lot, a lot from, let's see, less than $1 million in 2012 to 22 million in 2020. And that was all under his leadership. So
chart here, which again, I'm going to hand to you, the chart of the growth every year. I have never slowed down. I recognize that perhaps I should, but number one, there's a trade-off to slowing down. And number two, I need the right leaders around me in order to do that. So along the way, there's been much turnover, replacing people with better people. This was painful to me and to many of you who witnessed it. But that has always been happening since day one. There was turnover 10 years ago, and I had to fire a friend from college. Let's just maybe hold off on that until the end. So I'll make sure that everyone has a copy of this. And I don't intend to publish this. This is for you guys internally.
See, he says he doesn't intend to publish the document, but then he put this got put out, Well, this is like a PR. This is like a good PR thing for James. So in as much as he orchestrated the release of this video, it was smart because it makes it seem like they're the crazy ones. And it makes it seem like maybe there was a conspiracy. I'll play both sides of that. He's about to get to that. Why it happened in this proximity to the Pfizer thing.
10 years ago, I had to fire a friend from Rutgers. That hurt me. It took me months to get over this. I never discussed this. I felt for him, but it was the conflict that ate at me, but I had to do it. See, leadership has a price, and results often come at a human cost. Maybe fewer in this world, present day, are willing to pay that price. Many people want the fruits of leadership, such as its power, results, Twitter followings, secondary effects. But the price of the responsibilities, burdens, trials, hardships, difficult decisions, or just sheer suffering, I don't think people want that. And all through the years, things fundamentally continued on an upward trajectory for this place, albeit turnover. And I'm a hard guy to work for sometimes. We file our annual tax return. A public tax return is required by the IRS. And my compensation is set by an independent board of directors.
So yeah, he talks about turnover, like they've had to fire people and replace people. And so he must fire people sometimes. But you can't argue with the results. Like I would argue about the Pfizer story personally. Like I thought the Pfizer story, well, maybe it isn't even a story. Maybe Pfizer isn't doing what that guy said. And they haven't proven that they are, They said they manipulate the virus a little bit because they have to. But they didn't say they're manipulating it, not the way the guy said. So to me, it wasn't their best story at all. Their best stories were maybe the Google undercover stuff, the Twitter undercover stuff, the shadow banning. Some of that stuff was fantastic because you definitely could believe they were doing that. The Pfizer thing, we just don't know if Pfizer was really doing that. Anyway, not that important. But I was like, oh, maybe they really didn't like the Pfizer story. Maybe people inside the company thought it was a whack story, like it really didn't play out, right? They didn't prove it. But that doesn't seem to be the case. They seem to be happy. Everybody seems to be happy about the Pfizer story. I'll play you that part so you can see, because this is where he goes to say why he thinks it happened. He thinks it's because of Pfizer.
Via the compensation committee. 4 times a year, our chief financial officer has submitted company financials to the board. That's every quarter. And our board approves it in quarterly meetings. All 3 members of the C3 were present. And we have subjected both the C3 and the C4 to audits from outside independent accounting agencies each and every year. That happens. That has always been happening. Nothing about how I've conducted myself over the past 13 years has really fundamentally changed until now. So what has changed in the last 3 weeks?
Okay, here we go. What's changed?
What has changed? The only thing that has changed is that we broke the biggest story in our organization's history. You know that one I'm talking about? Pfizer. The last week of January, with 50 million views. That broke the record by 10x. Our video became a global phenomenon. It was about Pfizer and one of the directors discussing mutating the virus. Our confrontation video, where he locked me in a pizza restaurant with you and he smashed the equipment and called the police, that became a phenomenon and was riveting television for audiences glued to their screens. That was probably one of my favorite things that ever happened. It was just really unbelievable. It was like too true to be false and seemingly too false to be true, but it was real. If someone else is here, you can let them in. Hello, come on in. Just giving a few remarks to the team here, so you came at the right moment. So the only thing that changed were these videos. Outlets in India and China covered the story, and our social media exploded like never before. Our employees and board members' Twitter accounts also exploded like never before. Pfizer even put out a non-denial denial, like you always capture these things, where they basically admitted they were mutating the virus, albeit they buried this admission in jargon. But it was still an admission. And it was extraordinary that Pfizer responded to us with an admission, not denying that this guy was who he was. What an amazing turn of events. That is the only thing that's changed in 13 years of me being who I am. And then suddenly, an unusual emergency happened just a few days after that. I think we have one more person here. We could let him in. So suddenly, an unusual, and I'm going to take you through this. I'm going to take you through what happened. Some of you don't know these things. Hello. We're talking about the story we broke. An unusual emergency happened. On Thursday, February 2nd, that's a few days after the Pfizer story, I was informed by an officer of Project Veritas on the phone while en route to the airport that he would resign unless I stepped down as CEO. We've been having a conflict of visions, him and I, over fundraising. Are any fundraising here? I guess no one from fundraising is here. There were tactical disagreements about the boldness of approaches soliciting donations. I was told, and I'm paraphrasing, by asking for X dollars right now, you will prevent 10X dollars down the road. That advice ran contrary to everything I knew to be true in my 13 years of fundraising. But that conflict was even more fundamental and essentially boiled down to this. And my vision, I'm going to paraphrase Howard Rourke, the architect, quote, I don't build in order to have donors. I have donors in order to build. That's what I believed, and I felt like we had a conflict of visions. We don't measure our success only in terms of how much money we bring in. We measure our success in terms of our impact. Remember Acorn? I don't think I raised a single dollar off that. I had a stack of media coverage to the ceiling. We measure our success in terms of what we produce, not just in terms of our wallets. That was a pretty fundamental conflict, I felt. The day prior, I informed him in front of his colleagues that if he wasn't willing to follow my lead, he'd be shown the door. I tried to deal with it privately, but I was unsuccessful, and the disagreement boiled over publicly in a staff meeting. The next day, this individual refused to resign, so I fired him. Later that same day, that's Thursday, February 2nd, a few days after the 50 million viewed Pfizer videos, I was informed by a different officer of Project Veritas that he would go to the board in a few hours from that moment and have an emergency vote to restructure this company, receiving an agenda in my email while I was sitting on an airplane.
Okay. So you guys got it. A few days after the Pfizer video, he got called into an emergency something with somebody else who worked there to argue with him about how he's raising money. So it happened to be after the Pfizer video, but what he complained to James about, it seems like I'm starting to get it. I'm starting to understand what happened. So some guy complained about the way James O'Keefe was raising money. Some other guy at the company who apparently has pull with other people, who other people apparently like. So somehow people at the company decided they didn't like James O'Keefe and wanted to take over. But this one guy said James O'Keefe isn't raising money correctly, claimed he knew better than James. James said he disagreed. He disagreed so much that he wanted the guy to hit the bricks. And so then apparently it came to a head. He had to fire the guy publicly. This is after the Pfizer thing. So he publicly fired some guy who then was brought back, and then they had these board meetings and stuff and sat James down and made him listen to it, airing of grievances, so forth. So you guys, so it makes sense. They didn't bring up Pfizer. Nobody, and in fact, they did bring up Pfizer. I'm going to advance ahead a little bit. They did bring up Pfizer, but to say that James O'Keefe didn't have anything to do with the story, I'll see if I can play that.
Would not like that change. If I was removed from the chief decision maker at the organization I founded, I share who we are, our vision, our structure, our strategy with everybody. In fact, hiding something so fundamental from people is something that we stand against in principle, particularly with the amount of scrutiny that we're under. The doors closed, the plane took off, but somehow, over the next few hours, I was able to convince the board to push this emergency meeting to that Monday, February the 6th. The very next day, and this is where things get really bizarre. So fasten your seatbelts. The very next day, on Friday, this is now Friday, February 3rd, a board member reached out to one of our journalists and stated, quote, "You get a raise if there is a restructure without James O'Keefe at Project Veritas." I have a copy of the text message, and I'll give it to all of you. I redacted the name of the journalist. The board member deleted the message, but not before our journalist took screenshots. Good job, journalist. On Sunday, February 5th, now that's Sunday, 2 days after the Friday, a board member requested my presence at his home. He informed me, quote, "You had nothing to do, James, with this Pfizer story," unquote. Perplexed by this, I took out my iPad and showed him a video of myself confronting the Pfizer executive, which had 11 million views on YouTube. He responded, quote, "But that was after the undercover video had already been done," unquote. I pointed out that the brave journalist, and many of you know who this person is, I'm not going to name anyone, who recorded the interaction was someone that I had to sit down over a year prior, remember, over dinner, for hours, talking off the proverbial ledge, insisting he take the long, arduous road to get the story about Pfizer, and indeed he did. The board member, responding to me saying that, said he did not know that, and admitted that another board member was persuading him to the contrary.
Okay.
In the meeting, that's now, we're fast forwarding to Monday too.
So they're not upset. Anyway, this interaction tells me that they aren't upset about the Pfizer coverage. They liked it too, but they say they did it without James O'Keefe. Okay. This is where maybe I'll take a poll. And I'll say, will you still subscribe to Project Veritas? Because here's the deal. Project Veritas is going to continue to exist. Without James O'Keefe. Because they think that they can do it. Yeah. I'll ask the poll. And then I'll also leave a link. Reminder, if you'd like to leave a note on this stream, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil and support the grift. http buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil. Okay, so I'm taking a poll of will you still subscribe to Project Veritas? And I showed you the live count of them losing Twitter followers in real time right now. People are unsubscribing to Project Veritas. I will stay subscribed because I'll see what they do. I think the style of journalism was pioneered by James O'Keefe, and they do a unique, I call it catfish journalism. It's like where they sucker people into going on dates mostly. It seems like lately, at least. That wasn't the original way they got undercover videos, but this is the way they do it mostly now. It seems like they get people to go out on dates. So I don't know if they use Tinder or what, but I suggest that someone using that technique with the staff and resources and who knows how to use the technique can still come up with good stories without James O'Keefe. It's possible. I mean, somebody else could confront people. They could hire another personality to do it. And it could still be newsworthy. So I'm still interested personally, but most people say they will not. Most people say no, they will no longer subscribe. So far, we have 40 votes in so far. And go ahead and like the video while you're here too. Go ahead and like the video. I'll wait if you want. So anyway, let me go. So you got it. They said they did the story without him. So they think they can do the stories without him. That's what they're going to try to do now. They think they got this thing knocked. And they don't even need James O'Keefe. And James O'Keefe was a problem. And is a fundraising problem somehow because of the way he was asking for money. So now we'll see if Project Veritas comes out with their own rebuttal to this thing leaking or being leaked. Because it makes them come across. It puts James, I think, in the best light possible. considering that he admitted that he has flaws or he's not perfect. He doesn't ask about your kids. He's not compassionate. To which I suggest he could be a little autistic or something. A lot of people are. I mean, he could have like a personality thing. Said he has a personality thing. He's just not that touchy-feely with people. Although by the end of this video, he's crying, saying he loves everybody. I can play more so you guys can hear the whole story.
2 weeks ago. On the 6th, I offered an apology letter to the board for my tone of voice in the office at the leadership meeting the week before, that I intended to also share that apology for my tone of voice with our staff. But the board refused to accept my apology, nor believe that it was sincere. They also did not support my sending it to the staff. I imagine many of you didn't even know that I drafted an apology. Then I was subject to a 6.5-hour listing of grievances, which included taking black cars to meetings. I don't know the significance of the color of the vehicle. And taking a few charter jets over the years to pack multiple PV meetings in a day. One of those jets, I think we had a meeting in New York, Wisconsin, and California in the same day, and it raised $2 million. But the revenue part was omitted. There was also some truly bizarre.
So this is the other stuff. So here are the complaints. The fundraising thing, apparently there's a fundamental disagreement about. And apparently the guy who wanted to fundraise the other way is more popular with the board, who mostly voted 3-2 to get rid of James O'Keefe from what he posts on his screen. Logan in the chat says, if you're running a company, no one in their right mind would ever fire the face of the company at the same time as having the biggest story, either incompetence, greed, or trying to destroy Veritas. Well, it certainly could be incompetence, and certainly it could be arrogance, because it's people who think that they know better than James O'Keefe to run James O'Keefe's organization, or what has been James O'Keefe's organization. So it's definitely an arrogance. Whether they're trying to I'm just going to, I don't know. I'll take the non-conspiracy angle and just say that they didn't like him. They thought they could do better. They had this disagreement about fundraising. And then they gave him a bunch of complaints about him spending too much money, taking black cars, which would be like town cars and stuff, right? Uber X sort of thing, taking Uber X. Sounds like not a big deal for a company that made $22 million in 2020. Seems like, and he took a private jet. He said he took a charter jet, so he took a private jet a couple times, but it wasn't like he bought a jet. He took a private jet on a day where he had to travel to a number of events in the same day. And then there's one other big expense, which he explains. So hold on.
Our grievances, including my failure to record audio in one encounter at a bar in upstate New York, and an allegation that I stole a pregnant woman's sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
In federal court.
Stole a pregnant woman's sandwich.
There were also discussions from a few staffers with donors in the boardroom. Donors were listening to some of this, and some of these were sent directly to donors without my consent. Donors who have no knowledge of my personal life and have no business asking questions about my personal life, about girls I've dated in the past. A fundraising colleague relayed, and again, this is going to start getting really strange, but this board meeting was video recorded. We'll get to that in a minute. A fundraising staffer relayed, quote, concerns about my behaviors regarding videos where I, quote, literally chased a Twitter executive around New York. By acclamation from all of you in 2022, that video about the Twitter chase was one of the most successful videos. But yet your colleagues in a boardroom were expressing concerns about it. Every board member previously communicated their love of that video, but none pushed back in that moment when the staffer criticized it. Why? The attacks were so severe against me personally in that boardroom. And again, this is all video recorded, and I suggest that you ask for that. I will not provide that to you.
And that's him acting crazy in some video, chasing around a Twitter executive. But he does act kind of crazy sometimes. He's insulted some reporters, called some guy Fed boy. or something like that. Unprofessional stuff. He does get unprofessional sometimes, but people like it. It is like shock journalism. And he is an actor. That's one of the things he got in the most trouble for. James O'Keefe is a performer. I'll explain. But they always say, right, people are actors. Crowder, me, James. He was in a play. That was the biggest expense that they gave him trouble for.
Were so severe that one board member asked, quote, "Is there anything James O'Keefe is good at?" That's what your board member said. Oh, and by the way, this meeting was video recorded. I'm going to keep saying that. You may want to ask existing board members if they want to share that entire video with you. I suggest you request the entire 7-hour or so video to see for yourself what actually happened. You don't have to have been there. You simply need to watch the video and hear all of the testimony. After the 6 hours, I was asked what I had to say for myself. I was given about 10 seconds to respond, and then I was dismissed. Then, and I'm reading from board minutes drafted by lawyers who are taking a record of what the board members said and did, a vote was called to strip me of all of my authority and decision-making at this organization for half a year. That's 180 days. Again, it's in the board minutes. You'll have a copy of it. It says, quote, "The CEO's ability to make these decisions suspended for 180 days with such power transferred to the executive director. The executive director reports to the board. The CEO is placed on leave for 2 weeks, and the CEO's access to donors is restricted. So I can't talk to donors. I can't raise money." Let's see. Okay. My first question before I was dismissed, I asked how the remaining team will manage the company and what the plan was. That's something you had essentially, but what's the plan? But they didn't provide one. It was clear they didn't actually have one. And then I was dismissed. So I went off the grid as requested. Went hiking with Kennedy in the mountains. Within a few days of going off the grid, I started receiving missed calls and texts from the same board members and officers who demanded I be gone.
Okay. I think that's enough. You guys got to see a lot of the video, and you got to see it faster than in real speed too. So you're extra super productive during this last 45 minutes that you've been tuned into the show. You've absorbed more information than the average person could possibly in that amount of time. So that's James O'Keefe. That's what he says. I am skeptical that it had anything to do with Pfizer. Well, he didn't prove he didn't prove it. In fact, what he said about that one board member said was that they thought it sounded like they thought they could do it without James O'Keefe, that they don't think James O'Keefe is necessary for Project Veritas because they thought they were the ones that got the Pfizer video, which was such a big deal and which they seemed to be happy with. So it means that they're not pushing back against James because they were unhappy with the Pfizer coverage. They seem very happy with the Pfizer coverage based on what James O'Keefe said. They seemed unhappy with some kind of stuff that sounds, that to me sounds ticky-tacky, that they're saying, oh, I didn't get to it, but one of the big things was it was like $20,000, or he says 12,000. There's another thing that says $20,000 that was to rent like a wedding venue so people could see James O'Keefe perform in Oklahoma. That's why I said he's an actor. So he apparently was in a performance of Oklahoma, and he arranged a charter bus and maybe lodging, not sure, for people to all go to this event somewhere. And it was something that I think the Daily Beast said $20,000. He in this presentation said it was $12,000. But it was also like a Christmas party. So it was a corporate event. It just so happened the event was going to watch James O'Keefe perform in this play, this musical. So, which maybe people enjoyed. Maybe people like James O'Keefe and really wanted to go to that play, and maybe they really enjoyed it, and maybe it was a good corporate outing. I mean, that's the thing. They're critical of him for spending that much money, but companies spend money on bullshit all the time, and executives have benefits. It doesn't seem crazy to me that he would be flying on a chartered jet between fundraisers if he's raising a bunch of funds and has to do 3 meetings in a day. It doesn't sound crazy to me that he would take a private jet. So my read on it is that they screwed up. I mean, from the complaints, from just listening to what James said, it sounds like they just didn't like him. Basically, somebody just didn't like him. That's what it sounds like to me. They just didn't like him. They thought they could run the business without him, and they did a coup. They just did a coup straight up, took him out. And maybe the biggest argument was over this fundraising thing. And the fact that it happened after the Pfizer thing was maybe coincidental. Maybe. I don't know. He didn't present any evidence that it wasn't. It just did happen in close proximity to it. So it maybe was related in some way. But it doesn't sound like they got that much heat for that video. Otherwise, they would have brought it up to him and said, oh, that Pfizer video or whatever, if they didn't like it. It didn't sound like they were having trouble airing their grievances at him. So there you go. That's what happened with James O'Keefe today. We'll follow James O'Keefe. He's gaining followers right now. And Project Veritas is losing followers. The results of the poll are, with 93 votes, that 84% say they will no longer subscribe to Project Veritas. I will not unsubscribe, but I follow accounts that I actively dislike just because I want to see what they say. So I'm a different kind of character. I'm very curious to see what Project Veritas does next. Very curious to see, because if I were advising them, I would say, oh, you guys better put out something to rebut these claims by James O'Keefe, because this leaked video from James O'Keefe makes it sound like you were being petty. And donors aren't going to be happy about it. I don't think. Donors aren't going to be happy about it. You guys just say you won't follow. Or any of you donors to Project Veritas? Dan Whiffen says Nathan is grifting for Pfizer. Yeah. Well, Pfizer's terrible. What do you say about Pfizer? I just don't know if they were doing what the guy said. That's all. But yeah, no, I'm not grifting for them. They are a criminal organization that, probably is. They're probably hiding information that's really serious about what. And it would be cool if Project Veritas could expose that. But as far as them mutilating a virus so they can make a better vaccine for it, I just don't know. It just sounds kind of unlikely, but that's all right. And he stole a sandwich. I mean, give me a break. People do. I don't know. I was an actor. I worked on some movies and stuff and plays and stuff. And then I recently watched the Man on the Moon movie about Jim Carrey playing that dead comedian. You guys can remind me what his name is. But Jim Carrey was a total lunatic the entire movie, and people had to put up with him. People hated him, and people had to put up with him because of the product. So sometimes people who run news organizations can be a little bit difficult to deal with. I mean, sometimes I don't know. I mean, it could be a sign of like this woke culture where people just can't deal with anybody abrasive anymore. And I don't know, maybe he shouldn't be so abrasive. He said he apologized for his behavior. I don't know, as somebody who like people will say is mean and stuff sometimes, or it says the wrong things, or it isn't caring enough. Like, I get it. But that doesn't mean he's a bad person. And that doesn't mean he can't run that organization well. But donors, you guys say you won't subscribe. Donors are going to say they're not going to donate. It's not going to go well, I don't think. So we'll see how this story develops. I expect there to be something more. All right, now we're going to have another poll. This is a controversial video put out by Matt Walsh about a trans person, about Dylan Mulvaney, who I don't even know if Dylan Mulvaney doesn't even use a girl's name. So it doesn't sound that weird saying he when he hasn't even changed his name. Dylan Mulvaney, who's this person who talks about girlhood, does this crazy impersonation of what he thinks like a caricature of a female, and then is widely celebrated, it seems like. And wasn't he at the Emmys or something, wearing a dress and all that, and got a huge social media following? Well, Matt Walsh made a what he called a heartfelt message to Dylan Mulvaney. So I'll play this, and then I'll put out a poll that says, did Matt Walsh go too far? That's what the poll is going to say. So that's what you're supposed to think about while you watch this. Did Matt Walsh go too far?
Dylan, if that is the most attractive you will ever look, then I don't even want to imagine what you'll look like when you're at your ugliest. You do not pass as an attractive woman or as a woman at all. Even with 50 pounds of makeup and plastic surgery and clever lighting tricks, even then you still cannot escape what you really are and what you will always be. You have successfully shed whatever parts of you were masculine, perhaps, at least on the surface. Nobody would ever describe you as masculine or manly, so you've got that going. But your femininity quotient has not increased at a rate commensurate with the loss of your masculinity. You may not be masculine, but you also aren't feminine. Instead, you are weird and artificial. You are manufactured and lifeless. You are unearthly and eerie. You are like some kind of human deep fake. That's what you are. You are a man deprived of all the best qualities of men, but without any of the best qualities of women. Even your personality is contrived. Everything about you is fake. Nothing about you rings true. Nobody buys the act. You'll never be accepted as a woman by anyone, never by anyone. Even the people who pretend to accept you as a woman are only pretending because they're afraid of being lectured if they don't, or because they want to use you as a platform to virtue signal. But everyone who looks at you will see something pitiable and bizarre, something utterly unfeminine in every way. You will never be able to actually have the identity that you're trying to appropriate, nor will you ever be able to fully escape the identity that you're fleeing. The best you can hope for is some kind of limbo, the worst of all worlds. And yet, even in that limbo state, you will still be a man. Just not one that any of us can respect or take seriously. But other than that, champ, you're doing great.
There you go. So that's it, Matt Walsh. And I see the results of the poll, which is that most people say, I wasn't even sure. I don't even know if Matt Walsh, maybe people can say, does he do a show on YouTube? Because I wasn't sure if that would be considered targeted harassment or anything, even though Dylan Mulvaney is a celebrity. You know how YouTube is. So I don't know. I don't even know if Matt Walsh does a show on YouTube or if this was originally on YouTube. I saw it on Twitter. And I saw it on Twitter because Matt Walsh was saying that conservatives were telling him, like influencers were telling him that he went too far, mostly criticizing Dylan's looks, that from what I can gather. And even Zach Voorhees, who's been a guest on this show, is a friend of mine. He said that it was terrible. Zach Voorhees did. He said it was terrible that Matt Walsh is making us all look like jerks, like we're all bad people. So I see what you guys think. That's what's most important. Most people, and we can get a few more votes on this poll to make it more official, but most people say that Matt Walsh did not go too far. Most people, by a significant margin, felt they didn't go too far. I think about this stuff. I think about this stuff a lot because I have thoughts about being trans. Well, basically, like I kind of deny the existence of trans people, which is so terrible, right? They say you're denying the existence of trans people. Well, in the sense that I don't think it's a real thing. That's true. So, but I don't feel like a bad person, and I still accept trans people. I just don't believe it. But it's very difficult to think about what you're allowed to say about it because I don't want to be offensive. And I have some material that I could do as like stand up that is about trans issues that I don't know if people, even though to me it's completely normal what I would have to say, like it's like totally something everybody could relate to. I don't know if I don't know if I'm the proper judge of what people are offended by. That's the only thing. I don't know. And I don't know if Matt Walsh is a proper judge of what people are offended by either, because obviously some people were very offended. Some people on the right, to where, oh, you shouldn't criticize him for his looks or whatever. You shouldn't criticize him for his looks and like poor guy, right? Or poor whatever. Like don't or that you shouldn't make fun of people who are mentally ill in the first place, right? Not to say it's a mental illness, but maybe that's what people are thinking. Maybe they're like, oh, well, this is just some confused person who has their own problems. And so why go out of your way to make them feel terrible? So anyway, you guys say that it's not over the line. It shows you that it's a minefield out there. You just don't know what you can say. People hate J.K. Rowling still, even though she's never said anything transphobic. People say it's transphobic. So what Matt Walsh said, like I said, it even crossed over to where people on his team said that it wasn't cool. So what do you think about that? Do you think I don't know what poll I could ask you about this video. Do you think this, or what do you think this says about society? Does this bother you? I'll play this for you. Conspiracy, Occult, Illuminati, and NWO Media Review says there are 0 genuine conservatives who support trans rights. Well, in as much as they're human rights that everybody has already, I support. I would I would march with trans people if I thought they were being discriminated against for being trans. Like I would. I'm a liberal. And I'm a libertarian too. So I support individual expression. I support being left alone, being allowed to do whatever you want to your body, to your whatever, as long as you're an adult. As long as you're an adult. And whatever. What I don't support the things that they say are trans rights, like the right to kids to be medicated. I don't think that's a right for kids to get hormones that can, screw them up for life. I don't think that's a right. But yeah, if people were being discriminated against, I would be on their side. If they were being genuinely discriminated against. But that's not the case. Not letting people with penises around women in women's only spaces is not right. Is not like, so that's not taking away people's rights. Telling you you can't take your penis into a female changing room isn't a right that you had or that you deserve. Because men commit all, pretty much almost all sex crimes and stuff. It's all men. So you notice that about the whole thing, right? Like men don't complain. Like men, you haven't heard a man that's like, oh my God, I can't believe these vaginas in the locker room. I can't believe these women are coming in the men's locker room with their vaginas out. I don't feel safe. Guys never say, nobody ever says that. It's because it's women that are concerned, right? Because the men are the ones that do all the raping and stuff. Biological men are superior at raping and being violent. So we protect women from men. That's like something society decided to do. So we can't go backwards. Like we're actually going back. Trans rights is like what we're growing. We want to put women at risk. Like say, that's what we wanted. That's what we mean by trans rights. Putting women more at risk from men. Okay. Oh, thanks, Dan Whiffen. Whiffen says, yeah, that's part of my material. That is part of my material, actually. I was going to say, but it's true. Like men, you never hear, like men aren't transphobic, right? It's because men don't care. They're like, oh, woman around, like who cares? They're not threatened, right? It's women like who have something to worry about. Thanks for that. Thanks for that coffee. Appreciate it. Jito Gee 420 says only male rapes get reported, though I was raped by a female and just kept it as a funny story. Did she sit on your face? Is that how she did it? Because I had to think about it. Like, what did she do? How did she do it? How did she rape you? If she sat on your face and pinned your arms down, that qualifies. But it's very difficult to do otherwise. The traditional way that raping happens, women are not equipped, biological women are not equipped for it. That's terrible, though. It's terrible. I don't want to take away credit from women. If women can be rapists, then I don't want to say that only men are rapists, but it seems that way. Like you would, like if they had an Olympic competition for rape, then they wouldn't let biological men compete with women. People would be outraged, completely outraged by that. So like biological men have an advantage, I feel like a clear advantage. Then they definitely wouldn't allow transgender in sports for sure, if that was the case.
Twitch is basically like $100,000 a month from my numbers, like, you know, subs plus view count average, and then OF is like 1.5 million a month. So there's a big difference. There's a really big difference.
So if you make that much on OF, like, why still do streaming? Do you just purely enjoy it, or like?
Well, I do kind of enjoy it, but for the most part, Twitch is a billboard that I get paid to advertise on.
Mm-hmm.
It's a funnel,
okay,
you know,
yeah,
because social media will often just shadow ban a bunch of sexy content, you know. So it's like your reach is really nuked on every other platform except Twitch.
So you think that's your highest conversion platform is Twitch to OnlyFans?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
For sure.
Definitely.
That's super smart. I didn't even think of it like that, but
1.5 million a month.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you to say anything you don't want to disclose, but I mean, if it were outside of OnlyFans, and thank you for sharing the Twitch numbers as well. You know, what's another business that you can like share the monthly income of that's been, you know, substantial, that was a business choice that you thought of or you made that you're like, oh wow, this is crazy that I thought of this idea and I'm now making a good amount of money per month. So outside of OnlyFans and outside of Twitch, what's something like that?
I think my management committee real work, it's not quite like there yet because you know, I invested a lot, so we're waiting for the return to be kicked back. Just wait for that one. But for gas stations, I guess to a normal, like, you know, type of 9 to 5 person like I was before stream, I would say it was pretty cool because I think the profit's about like 85,000 a year, and I don't have to do anything because it's just like kicks back from the rent and stuff. So I mean, that's pretty cool because it helps lower taxes too, because I can just deduct the cost of the building from my yearly income, and then I get a lower tax rate.
There you go. So what's my poll question for that? It's like, do you object, or what's your beef with that? What's his name tweeted about Elijah? And it says, it's crazy how Twitch is used as a portal for digital prostitution and men are getting sucked in so easily. I just think pretty smart. Like, I don't know, some of the most successful women, some very successful women in like pornography and showing off your body and stuff. Some of them are really smart. And because they figured out, it's like, oh, I can make money just showing guys my boobs. Like, that's it. And people will pay for it. And I just have to talk to them. I can do that. And they don't have the moral hangups about it and stuff. And they just think about it from a business perspective. That's why, like, I guess what Andrew Tate said made sense. Is like, oh, look, you can do this work and make a bunch of money just scamming men, and men will pay for it. So, like, do you hold it against her? Really? It's hard to, but who knows? Is she really happy? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if she's happy. I don't know if people are happy doing it. I would set up I would get some feet models. Eliza Blue got caught doing feet on OnlyFans, which I always talked about as a joke, that I would set up something called Only Feet. And I would recruit girls to be my feet models. But apparently Eliza Blue did that. I don't know. I have a screenshot of it. I have a whole concept around it. I would do like OnlyFans content where first they would bake a cake and you'd watch them bake the cake, and they'd bake a cake, put frosting over it and all that stuff. and then they'd stomp on it. You know how people like to see people stomping on stuff like balloons or whatever? They'd crush the cake and they'd squeeze out between their toes and stuff. People would go crazy. People would go crazy for it. I just need the right foot model. But look, feet only. It says feet only. I always propose that I would open an account. I've said it as a joke a bunch of times, that I would open an account with just my feet. Because people have perversions. And I don't hold it against people. I think it's weird. I'm not into feet. But I realize that people are. And you can make money off of it. And is it really that bad? Dan Whiffen says, what kind of cake? I don't know. Something good, something really good, you know? Just a concept I have. I'd have to find somebody though. I'd have to use the lover boy method. All right, I think that's what I got for you guys today. Oh, there's some more, but I'm going to save some because I covered a lot. Let me show you this about AI, about how AI will be used to seize power. Before we go, I'll play you this. How AI will be used to seize power. Let's see. All right, let's see. I'll play this video for you guys.
Raiden, are you having fun playing with the new AI toys?
Well, yeah, I am. You can make pictures of cute anime girls and...
Enjoy it while it lasts, Raiden.
What do you mean?
Did you really think that civilians would be granted unrestricted access to such powerful military weapons forever?
Military weapons. Are you implying that this technology was created by the government?
Of course it was. This AI technology has been used by the intelligence agencies to warp the public's perception of reality for years. All in the name of national security, of course.
But why would they suddenly make the tech public and let everyone start using it?
Why would we indeed, Raiden?
What? What in the hell are you?
Your question is irrelevant. By creating a new problem, we can cultivate a desired reaction to it in order to manufacture consent for our preferred solutions. In short, it's justification for a war.
A war? On who or what?
A war on misinformation. By arming the public with these AI weapons, everyone becomes a potential enemy combatant. Then we will have justification for unprecedented security measures. It all comes down to confusion and identity, Raiden.
Identity?
Identity. This AI technology is Pandora's box. Pretty soon the internet will be mired in total illusion. Perfect AI speech, audio, and video synthesis will drown out reality. Then AI bots will flood social media. No one will be able to tell the difference between interacting with an AI machine or a real human online. Even telephone calls will become totally untrustworthy. That is when we will present our solution. Mandatory digital identity verification for all humans at all times. The only way to ensure that you're dealing with a real flesh and blood human being and not an AI-generated mirage.
But why?
Total information control. For too long, the internet has acted as a double-edged sword. Its potential for anonymous user activity allows anyone at all to spread any thoughts, ideas, or information patterns that they please with impunity. State secrets, dangerous ideas, ludicrous conspiracy theories, misinformation, and disinformation. Until now, there has been no easy solution to this problem. Our digital identity platform will finally put an end to anonymity online. It will allow us to trace misinformation and other dangerous communications to its source and exact appropriate justice.
That's crap! I won't go along with it, and others will resist.
You won't have a choice, Raiden. Do you think your bank is willing to risk doing business with an artificial human instead of a real one? Our digital identity platform will be required not only to access web services, but to pay for your internet connection in the first place.
You can't just censor the entire internet because of a new software technology. Who are you to define what's misinformation anyways?
That sounds like something a misinformation terrorist would say.
I know about the deep fakes you've been making of me, Raiden.
What? No. I was just adjusting the AI settings and...
Controlling the output of generative AI technology is simple. We will create context for its use. First, we will censor any use related to social taboos. Then we will censor anything else that we desire. If anyone complains, we will accuse them of wanting to engage in or promote social taboos.
That's what it means to create context.
We will corral the use of AI by making appeals to bias, ethics, and copyright laws. You will still have access to generative AI in some form, but it will be crippled, limited, controlled, and it will be monitored. Anything that you generate will be cryptographically signed with your digital ID, so that its provenance can be ascertained if it's later deemed to be problematic.
What gives you the right to control what people can do with their computers?
The public at large will give us that right, because they will be desperate for a solution to the problem we created. They will eagerly give us the keys to the castle. Then, we alone will define what is fiction and what is reality, what is human and what is machine. After letting you get a brief taste of our power, we will reclaim our monopoly on misinformation and put an end to misuse of the internet once and for all.
You won't get away with this.
It is probable that we will. Now get back to work generating your precious AI waifus, Raiden, our beloved prompters. Enjoy yourselves.
So that's
Snake, wake up! It's an emergency. Rose knows about the deepfakes. Snake! Snake! I guess he stayed up late AI catfishing again.
I just read an article about how they're going to use AI for OnlyFans too. So I forgot about that. They're creating deep fake or completely generated women in skimpy clothing already. Those pictures are going around the internet. And people say it's going to replace like OnlyFans creators. So OnlyFans creators, people are saying in the future will just be men controlling a AI avatar of some sort that looks like a woman and that people like just as much as a woman, supposedly. So yeah, that's the next step. So it's getting close. And then the voice recreation stuff is almost perfect now. So you can't even voice recordings and stuff. They're already completely unreliable because I've heard Elon Musk say things that people recorded that it sounds just like him. So they've done that deep fake. They've done the deep fake on audio now. So, which is kind of cool in a way. Like I'm looking forward to being able to program myself and write scripts for myself that the AI can generate me and perform. But that's where it's going to get, you just write a script and then you have the Nathan bot. So digital ID, they mentioned. I was concerned that Twitter Blue was going to be digital ID because I thought they would check your ID and do like a KYC check on you to make sure you were your identity. So you get a blue check mark. Twitter decided not to do that. So they didn't go down the digital ID route, really. They just said, oh, you can pay, and they don't verify anything. Facebook is rolling out verification, which does come with KYC, which is short for know your customer. KYC, I have that. That's because I'm into crypto. And every time you sign up for a financial website or app, it could be Cash App too. I mean, they do it on other apps too. You may at some point have to provide ID through some kind of system where they say, oh, take a picture of your driver's license front and back. And then it might ask you to take some different pictures of your face so they can try to scan your face. So those things happen already for financial websites. Like if you want to sign up at Coinbase, for example, you're going to have to give them your ID. Well, Facebook is doing that with their verification process. So that is digital ID. So that means in the future, a verified Facebook account might mean something because they actually do verify your identity. So it would mean something to me. I don't know. Digital identity is essential. It is essential in the future to verify that you're human because of these things that can impersonate us. So digital ID is a new world order type of thing. And they were doing some kind of digital ID and where the train crashed, right? It is kind of like a new world order thing, and the governments want it because they can track you better and stuff. But it also is going to be kind of essential for certain things that you have to verify your identity somehow. But you could verify it anonymously by giving them a wallet address. You can verify your identity by giving a cryptocurrency address that you have control over. That could be a form of digital ID. Like if I give out my Bitcoin address or something, I control it. I can show that I can move the funds. That means it's me. That's one form of digital ID. So, but Facebook is rolling out. They're verifying an account with a government ID, and you get a blue badge for doing that. All right, let me see if anybody, you can support the show by going to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil and leaving a coffee. Otherwise, you can leave super chats. That helps YouTube recognize that the show is valuable. I got my fingers crossed. Hopefully somebody dropped me a coffee. I think I had it pinned to the top of the chat. Oh, I didn't even pin it to the top of the chat. So we do run this show. Thanks, Dan Whiffen, for the coffee for that. That is part of my material, by the way. So I'm glad you thought it was funny. The vagina's in the locker room. And that's it. I just got one coffee. So I will take phone calls. But I could use some more coffees. I'll take a phone call just hoping that somebody else drops a coffee. Because let's see, I'll look over on Rockfin. And I have 0 in tips on Rockfin too. So I'll take phone calls in the hopes that somebody will support the show. Otherwise, I have to find something else to do, right? If you guys don't give me super chats, that means I actually have to find something else to do. So do that. Go to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil. Become a member. Support the show. Or you can buy t-shirts at truthclothing.io. I'll stay live for a little while longer just in case somebody decides that they want to. But yeah, for an hour and a half, I should have a few super chats. So you guys have to figure that out. Otherwise, seriously though, I'll leave the phone number 650-429-8294. It could be like the Griftcast IRL. Let's see if I can bully anybody else. I haven't been live for a few days. I'm going to try to do live shows every day this week. Okay. So, and I'll see if I can come up with any extra content. And I'll see if anybody calls in. If nobody calls in, then you can donate anytime, even after the show's over. Like even if you're listening to the podcast and you want to support the show, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil and you can leave a coffee like Dan Whiffen did. I'll see if anybody calls in. Got to get the channel cooking a little bit more. So I have to go live during some live events or something. Let's see if anybody calls in. 650-429-8294. 650-GAY TAXI is the number. I'm surprised. Okay. And if nobody gives me a call soon, that's fine. I'll just call it a day. I did a long enough show. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2. I think the notifications might be turned off. It says change your browser settings. Let's see. It could be somebody's calling me and it's not going through because it says web notifications are off. So I'll try it again. Thanks, people who listen to the show. Thanks, people who support the show. If you leave comments, I'll check out the comments afterwards. Thanks if you comment on the video. I appreciate it. If you give it a like, I appreciate it. We have great t-shirts and like this hoodie I'm wearing. It's available. Truthclothing.io. Links in the description. All right. I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I'm sure people are interested and really want to call, and I'll get calls as soon as I wrap up. If you could, go to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil, drop a coffee, and support the show. And I'll be back tomorrow. Okay? Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you at the next one. For now, that's what it is. Oh, I see a super chat. Thanks, Jito Gee 420. Who says I can't super chat my story. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. Thank you. I didn't want to miss the super chat. Well, I didn't get any calls. All right. Well, I gave it a shot. See you guys at the next one. Thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. See you guys.